Welcome all of you to the formal meeting of the Salt Lake City Council for Tuesday, November 27th, 2018. There are quite a few things that we have on our agenda tonight, so I'd ask you to bear with us as we work through this. The first thing I'd like you to all do is stand with the council and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you all. Because of some of the different items that we're going to be going through tonight, I just want to go through some of the standards of conduct that we as a council have for all of us. You look like a very, very rowdy crowd, so no standing on the furniture, no leaning against the walls, don't hold signs up in front of other people, don't boo or cheer after public comments. We just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable speaking their mind to the council, and so we ask you to abide by those standards of conduct. The first thing I'll do is look for a motion from the council regarding the special work session minutes of Tuesday, October 30th, and the formal meeting minutes of Tuesday, October 16th, and Tuesday, November 13th. Motion by Council Member Fowler.
Second.
And seconded by Council Member Johnston. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The council will now consider adopting a joint resolution with the mayor recognizing December 1st as World AIDS Day in Salt Lake City. So I'd like to turn the time over to Council Member Wharton, who will read that resolution.
Thank you. So this is a resolution recognizing World AIDS Day in Salt Lake City. Whereas, according to estimates from the United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS, there are now more than 36.9 million people throughout the world living with HIV. Of these, 1.8 million are children. 1.8 million new infections occurred among adults and children in 2017 alone. And whereas HIV infections are continuing to increase in Utah, with 25 to 34-year-old Utahns being most impacted in 2017, and whereas up to 80% of people living with HIV in Utah reside along the Wasatch Front, and whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have found that HIV-related stigma has a significant negative impact on people living with HIV, increases new infections, and delays people seeking testing for HIV, and whereas stigma, shame, and fear make people less likely to discuss their sexual health with doctors and often leads to delays in seeking testing or treatment for sexually transmitted infections and HIV, which can have serious long-term health consequences. And whereas the elimination of stigma in Utah will lead to better physical and mental health outcomes for people living with HIV, increased HIV disclosure, increased HIV testing, and decreased HIV infections. And whereas World AIDS Day was established in 1988 and is observed each year on December 1st to provide an opportunity for individuals and communities to take action and help educate for HIV/AIDS prevention, treatment, and care. And whereas Salt Lake City has joined other cities around the world in an effort to increase awareness, reduce stigma, provide education about HIV/AIDS, and demonstrate compassion for those affected by HIV. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Salt Lake City Council and Mayor of Salt Lake City hereby recognize December 1st, 2018 as World AIDS Day in Salt Lake City and encourage all residents to unite together in the fight against HIV/AIDS, reduce the stigma of HIV/AIDS, and support those who are living with or have been affected by HIV/AIDS. And it is signed by the mayor and all members of the city council.
Thank you, Councilmember Wharton.
Thank you.
So looking at, or having heard the resolution read, I'll look for a motion.
I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Wharton, seconded by Councilmember Mendenhall. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the resolution is formally adopted. Is there somebody here who you would like to present that with? Councilmember?
I'd like to present it to Jared Hafen, the Director of Programming for Utah AIDS Foundation.
Okay,
We can go around.
we can, yeah,
Okay.
All of us, shall we?
Let's start here first, anybody else? More, anybody else? You got it? Good, thank you.
Thank you. Rude. I should have eaten that canola.
You should eat too.
okay, the council will now consider adopting a joint resolution with the mayor declaring November as Native American Heritage Month in Salt Lake City. So I'll turn the time over to Councilwoman Mendenhall to read this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, again, a joint resolution declaring November Native American Heritage Month in Salt Lake City. Whereas more than 2,000 Native Americans residing within Salt Lake City are a unique and diverse population representing many tribal nations and their cultural values, celebrations, and achievements. And whereas Salt Lake City is built on homelands of the Northwestern Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute, who have called Salt Lake Valley and the Wasatch Range home and have been stewards of the land for thousands of years. And whereas Native Americans have contributed to the prosperity of Salt Lake City through treaties, resources, lands, culture, traditions, and commerce, and whereas we honor and celebrate the importance of Native Americans and their immeasurable contributions to our city and to our society, distinguishing themselves as scholars, veterans, teachers, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, and leaders, and whereas we strive to improve communications with, services to, and partnerships with all city residents as we journey together on a quest for justice, equality, respect, and prosperity. Now therefore be it resolved that the Salt Lake City Council and Mayor of Salt Lake City declare the month of November Native American Heritage Month. This document is again signed by the whole City Council and Mayor Jackie Biskupski. And we'd like to invite Moroni Benali and anyone else who's here, Yolanda, great to see you, to come up and have a picture and thank Moroni and I'm sure a consortium of many others for bringing this resolution to us. And as we do the World AIDS Day celebration, or rather not celebration, but resolution every year, this is one that I hope that will be iterative and we'll be able to work on our future years and improve relations as we do so. So we'll come on down and
Okay,
have a
hold on.
picture.
Before we do that, though, let's
vote.
formally adopt the resolution.
Just
But you're
seems
both
done
welcome-
when
you're-
we've signed
The three
it.
of you are welcome to stay there as
I
we
move
do
for
this.
approval of
So,
the
I'll-
resolution.
I'll go to Councilmember Mendenhall for a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Mendenhall, second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is formally adopted.
Gosh, I'm sorry. It's all signed up and-
Okay, up here. Nice smile. All right, I need a couple more. One more. Okay, anybody else want me? Anybody? All set? Good, thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is an item about which we are quite sad, even though we should be really excited for the opportunity. It's now time to formally recognize outgoing City Council member Derek Kitchen for his service to Salt Lake City District 4 and 2008 Redevelopment Agency RDA Chair. So to this, I'll look to Councilmember Mendenhall to
Thank you.
read.
Thank you. Derek, we want to thank you and recognize the significant impact you've had on Salt Lake City, a lasting impact, and the passion you've brought to the job since 2016. And Amy, as Vice Chair of RDA, recognized many of the accomplishments that you have been integral in as an RDA board member and then as our chair. But I want to touch on a few of the council items, because since 2016, you have worked to make really outstanding progress on a number of huge issues, including affordable housing, economic development in the Northwest Quadrant and throughout the city, public safety resources, new support and resources for people experiencing homelessness, long-term infrastructure funding for our roads and other assets, and sustainable and ongoing public transit funding.
Aaron, I need to interrupt. And accessory dwelling units.
It sounded like Charlie
part of
was
affordable
supportive.
housing.
That was, that was a mention of support. Well, I want to make note of Charlie supporting ADUs. Thank you for being a strong voice for your district. District 4 was lucky to have you. And I also want to mention your value and passion for art that has added to the vitality of our neighborhoods, and specifically in the Greenery District. That's a lasting investment that was a brainchild of yours and will last, I hope, for decades in that community. It's a beautiful investment and a totem to your service here. And so tonight, we want to present you a unique piece of art that's entitled Stages, and it was created by Evan Jed Mehmet. It toured the city as a functional skateboard for a time before he repurposed it into a piece of art. The artist, who I know you know, but he also designed a bright and lively mural on Kilby Court in the Greenery District as part of the investment the RDA made. He says about this piece that when making this piece, I was in a very transitional phase and was really working hard to shift my focus to the things I thought really deserved my time and energy. I wanted to be able to just switch over, to just jump ahead, but that's not how progress works. It comes in stages, and thus the name of this piece. So, Stages of Progress have identified city efforts for years, and you've made your mark on many components of current and future city success for our residents. The artwork we present you with tonight has been signed by Evan, also commending your support of the arts and building communities. So if you want to step down with us, we'd like to give it to you. Okay. Come on, everybody.
Okay, Rebay. You show it to the crowd, I don't think I've ever seen it.
We'll invite Derek
So
to.
before we do that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Before we turn the time over to Derek to make some remarks, I want to turn the time over to Mayor Biskupski, who would
Thank
also
you.
like to make some comments.
Yeah, so what an honor it has been. We came in together, and you certainly have been a bold leader. You have left your mark, and that's been stated, and that's significant and real. You certainly led the charge on affordable housing, and we were able to take that leadership and grow it even further. So thank you for leading the charge on that. It's some of the only affordable housing going on in the entire state, and that's a big deal and a feather in your cap that I don't think anyone will forget. And thank you for working so closely with us in the RDA and on many projects. And of course, everyone knows that the granary looks different because of you. And so you're a tremendous leader, and I look forward to working with you in your new capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Biskupski. Councilmember Kitchen, the time is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Aaron, that was very sweet. I appreciate your remarks. And Amy, earlier today in the RDA meeting, thank you so much. I really like the art piece. It's quite amazing, and it's such a testament to how I have learned public policy actually works, which is oftentimes slow, and it depends on the personalities that sit right here and over there to get things done. And you know, I came into this role of city council sort of with a heavy bat, really swinging it and trying to get all my ideas accomplished and things that I spoke about on the campaign trail. And it became very clear very fast that in this world, in governing, progress happens slowly. Although sometimes it can happen fast, but oftentimes it's mostly very slow. And so I just want to thank my team here, the 7 of us. We got to know each other pretty intimately over the last couple of years and have worked on some really big, meaty policy ideas that will impact not only Salt Lake City for the foreseeable future, but really the whole region. And so, you know, I just want to thank, you know, James and Charlie, you two in particular. You have a special spot in the same corner in my heart, and I think that's because you both embody loyalty and a sense of brotherhood, and that has been really important in policy making, especially when the stakes are really high. So that's been really enjoyable for me to get to know those sides of your personalities. And Andrew, you and I came into the city council together as just, you know, young, ambitious, excited people, and it was really nice to share so many common policy objectives. I've learned a lot from you. You always come prepared and ask really insightful questions, but more than anything, you see both sides of issues, and that's a value that I wish I had more of, and I'm working on, and I'd have you to thank for that. Chris, you mentioned just a moment ago that we haven't had an opportunity to work on too many policy things together since you are relatively new to the council, but you have taught me a lot in the short time that you've been here. And most of it is focused on how to have fun with this process. You are, of course, intelligent, but you're silly and funny. And that means a whole lot when, again, the stakes are really high and we're all stressing out and pulling our hair out or what's left of it. And so thank you for bringing that to this body. It's been really important. I think I'll skip you for a second, Aaron, and go to Amy and say to you, Amy, you and I have served in RDA leadership together this year, and it has been such a joy getting to know you. You always put on your attorney, your legal cap, and it provides a lot of deep insight to sort of just the rudimentary way that I approach some of these more complex policy ideas, and I appreciate your insight and your tough questions. You are, of course, sharp, but you are so quick to learn, and I really have enjoyed getting to know you and working side by side, so thank you for that. And Aaron, I have learned probably the most from you on accident, and that comes from, I think, the fact that you and I are so similar in a lot of ways. And because we're similar, we fight and we disagree, and sometimes it's about the small beans issues, but I see you as somebody that's like a sister to me, and I just have really appreciated our friendship, and I look forward to working with you and all the rest of the council from the state legislature, from the Senate, and I just want to thank you. Aaron and I ran into each other on a hiking trail in southern Utah a couple months ago, and it was just kind of serendipitous because it's a secret hike, and somehow we both knew about it, and I think it just speaks to the fact that you and I are kind of close and similar in a lot of ways. So I appreciate what we've been able to establish as friends and colleagues, so thank you, Aaron. Of course, I'd like to thank staff. Can we, for the audience, have everybody, all the staff members raise their hand, just so we can get an idea of, this is the real machine behind the city council. And you've heard it before from other council members that have left, but we wouldn't be able to do this without you. So thank you for everything. I'd like to thank Sam in particular. Sam was my assistant, my liaison, and he really kept my head on straight and kept me moving forward, and was really great with constituents and policy matters, and he became much more than just a liaison. You're a friend and somebody that I deeply respect. So thank you for that, Sam. I look forward to working with you in the future in different capacities, because I know you've got a lot to look ahead for in your own future. So I look forward to working with you there. Of course, Cindy Gus Jensen, the director of our office, thank you. I'd also like to shout out to constituents like Cindy Cromer over here, who shows up and provides deep insight to a lot of the policy issues that require institutional knowledge and somebody who's been paying attention for a long time. And so I became a better policymaker because of people like Cindy, among a few other constituents of mine. And so I just want to thank you for being a friend and a partner. And whoever follows me in this role will be lucky to have you as well. And that's another thing I'd like to mention. This role of being a legislator is always temporary. This is a seat that we hold. We are fortunate enough to hold, but for a short time. And so I know that there were times when I came up short as a legislator, but I also know that I was able to grow into this role over the years, and I feel much more capable now than ever before. And so thank you for learning alongside me and teaching me and letting me be a part of this important process of self-governance. Really quickly, I just want to highlight a couple of the things that I am really honored to have participated in from a policy perspective over the last couple of years. When I came into office, the homeless services system was in the process of being realigned. And so this was sort of thrust on me and the whole council and the new mayor. And I feel like while it was tense at moments and stressful, and this was a big, heavy ship to turn, we've made some serious progress on homeless services in this county and in this city. From siting the new shelters, which was, again, a really heavy lift, to modifying the way that they operated within our community and instituting things like community advisory boards for the homeless shelters that I think will have a real lasting impact on the way that we provide these types of social services to our residents. I'm very proud of the $21 million housing fund that we established through the redevelopment agency. As the mayor mentioned, at the moment, Salt Lake City has the lion's share of affordable housing under construction in the state of Utah. And at the moment, a lot of this has to do with the conversation that we really kickstarted with this $21 million. I see this as seed funding, and I hope that a future council down the road will amplify that investment. And I think with this effort, we showed what was possible. A couple other things that I'm really proud of. We, as a body, the 7 of us, worked with the state and the governor to clean up a really bad bill in the inland port legislation. And I think that will have long-term impacts that will benefit, well, that will do less harm to the city than the original bill. And so I'm really proud of the effort on behalf of our chair and Charlie and James and others that really led out on that. And I'm just happy to have been a voice in the background to support all of your efforts. The Transit Master Plan, which is the first ever document of its type here in Salt Lake City, will provide high-frequency bus service to nearly every single resident within a quarter-mile walking distance. And then we ended up funding a good chunk of that master plan this year with the sales tax increase. I'm very proud of that effort. And like Charlie mentioned, the accessory dwelling unit policy conversation that drug on and on and on and on, and we finally passed it. And I want to thank my council peers for allowing me to be a part of that. And then, of course, the murals, which I'm really proud of, and the Complete Streets Ordinance update. We are about to spend $87 million on street and road infrastructure, and I feel really strongly that the Complete Streets will play a big role in us seeing that money spent wisely. A couple of things that I didn't get a chance to see through: fixing our Golf Enterprise Fund. That will become that's only going to get worse with time, so I know that this council and future councils will have their work cut out for them there. And then the Fleet Block. The Fleet Block, which is almost 10-acre parcel of land owned by the city, is the reason I got into this race in the first place back in 2015. I know things are happening there, but not very fast, and I'm bummed that I won't be around to see that through. So that being said, being a public servant has been both humbling and empowering. And I'm so grateful to have been in this role for this long, and I look forward to working with the council and the mayor from the Hill. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
So on that note, we are now going to move forward with our public hearings. We have a couple tonight, so if you are interested in speaking to one of these public hearings, please fill out a card and hand it to one of our staff members. I went over the rules of decorum before, so I don't need to do that now, but I will remind everyone that you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. And on the first public hearing, it's a resolution regarding funding our future interlocal agreement with the Utah Transit Authority. And I have one card on this item. It's from George Chapman. If there's anybody else who would like to speak to the resolution regarding the funding our future interlocal agreement with the Utah Transit Authority, please fill a card out and I'll call on you. George, the time's yours.
Only 2 minutes?
You have a whole 2 minutes.
I know more about transit, I think, than anybody up there. I ride it every day. I argue with UTA for almost 10 years now. I think you're making a big mistake on the transit agreement. You're screwing the west side. Number 2, number 9, and 21st South are all east side bus routes. Nothing on the west side, despite the fact that the Redwood Road bus has 3 times the riders than bus number 2, the best bus in the east side. And even State Street is missing, and that has 3 times more riders also than the number 2 bus. And the State Street and Redwood Road buses are so crowded, there's standing room only. I've watched 2 wheelchairs, 4 strollers, and a packed bus make it through there. This is ridiculous. And you're actually working on 2, 9, and 21. I love 21. There's a entertainment district on 21st South, but it needs more Spanish service. So I'm asking you to make sure State Street and Redwood Road are expanded in Spanish service, not just the east side routes. Otherwise, you're throwing Title VI down the toilet. Really bad idea. Also, your capital improvements for transit doesn't make sense because some of those bus stops are in the middle of the block, and that actually discourages ridership. So I'm asking you not to do that. Also, I'm asking you to start or force UTA to start service when they get paid in January. Waiting until August doesn't make sense. You're increasing Spanish service. You don't need an extra bus for that. So they should be starting in February at the latest on Spanish service. Again, State Street and Redwood Road should be the priorities.
Time.
Otherwise, you're screwing the west side. And you're going to get a lawsuit, and it's going to be down the toilet because of it. Please think about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Any other discussion regarding this item? Yes, come forward. Since I don't have your card in front of me yet, just tell us your name and.
My name is Robert Goodman. I'm a homeowner in District 5. Yeah, I take the 9 bus each day to work up in the Research Park area. Thank you for your diligence towards that route, and it's much appreciated. I work in kind of the top of the Research Park area, and I think it'd be really great if there were more public transit routes going into Research Park. I know there's a significant workforce that commutes up there each day. And as it stands, that whole area is primarily designed for automotive vehicles and not so much public transportation. Furthermore, there's also 2 very wonderful nonprofits up there, the Natural History Museum of Utah and Red Butte Garden. Depending on the season, I really believe that those 2 nonprofits up there are really the jewel of the crown of our community. And I know it would be just really tremendous if there was greater access to those 2 places for families and communities on the west side of our city. Thank you so much. Thank you to the council.
Thank you for your comments. Any other interested parties wanting to speak to this? Okay, come forward, and then when you're finished, just fill a card out and hand it to staff.
It actually wasn't my intention to speak on this topic today, but
If you can just start with your name.
Oh, Scott Andrews.
Thank you.
I live up on the East Bench in Federal Heights. I was living in South America for 3 years. I actually just got back to the United States in July. And I was living in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. I spent some time in Sao Paulo. I lived in Buenos Aires, and I lived in Santiago in Chile. And I was really impressed. The one thing that universally was impressive was their transportation systems and the cost. And I lived the entire time without needing a car. And I've been a resident of Salt Lake City for 20 years. And as I see us grow as a community, I keep thinking we need to have a master plan for the entire valley. And of course, I claim ignorance on what you've already been working with the transport. But I really feel like we need to have a massive discussion and infrastructure planning rights of way put in place now just for the future, that when the time comes that we are committed to the infrastructure investment, that the roads will be there, the pathways, and the benefits that I saw in cities with large infrastructure transportation systems has been incredible. That's one of the best experiences that I had in South America. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Seeing none, I'll look to Councilmember Mendenhall.
I move that the council continue this public hearing to a later date.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Mendenhall to continue the public hearing to a later date. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion? Councilmember Johnston.
Point of personal privilege,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. For Mr. Chapman, the 9 actually gets replaced with new route that actually goes over 13 South to California through Navajo and out to Redwood Road, which will give us the ability to have essentially, if the 516 gets changed on 9th West, to have 3 different bus routes on the west side through Glendale and Poplar Grove at 15-minute intervals. So we have to do work on the 516 and the 509 to make them work on that 9th West, but the end result should be having more routes at 15-minute intervals to go through that area back downtown and to North Temple. So I hear what you're saying, and you're right. and this is a step towards that, I believe.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnston. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. In addition to that, Phase 2, Mr. Chapman, has 2 more additional routes from west to east connectors. So this really has been all about west to east connectors for this transit money. So we can sit down with you and talk to you more about it, but that's really in detail what it is west-east connectors.
Great. Any other discussion? Councilmember Mendenhall, I have a procedural question for you. If you want to do this in December,
I'll set a
we'll need
date.
to set a date tonight. Do you want to amend your motion?
I'd like to set a date for December 11th to ensure that the public has time to reflect on any new information we receive.
So based on you just saying that tonight and you guys voting on it, then we can get advertising going and the social
Thank you.
media information.
Councilmember Johnston, does that work for your second?
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The second public hearing is an ordinance regarding the Inland Port zoning text amendment. And I have a couple of cards here. If you have not filled a blue card out but would like to speak to the Inland Port zoning text amendments, please do so. Hand it to staff, and I'll call your name. The first card is from Dean Dinas, followed by Terry Thomas.
My name is Dean Dinas. I'm a business economist with Key Technologies, Inc., a Utah company in its 3rd decade as a consultancy to businesses and government. I testified last time briefly regarding the same ordinance, and at that time, we did not have new guidelines which will become part of state code with respect to air quality. In addition to the line item, or rather the discussion outlined in the ordinance, which says these changes would bring city code in line with state requirements for an inland port, and the conditional uses under the proposed zoning overlay would require an impact mitigation plan. I hope, and we hope as a community, that the considerations of both federal EPA and Utah Division of Air Quality new standards be imposed on all of the businesses that will aspire to or respond to requests for proposal to participate in the inland port, whether they are construction companies, subcontractors, freight, transportation, and/or rail, that they comply with the new air quality requirements that were posted specifically and outlined in the Deseret News on the 25th of November. Specifically, there are 22 industrial sources of pollution in northern Utah that may have to come up with nearly $100 million fix for emission reductions. Using best available control technologies, which I mentioned last time, the move to the more advanced technology for emissions control is a result of Utah's non-attainment pollution areas. We should enforce those new rules in the inland port. Thank you for your assistance and service.
Thank you, Mr. Dinas. Terry Thomas, followed by Wayne Mortensen.
My name's Terry Thomas, and I'm here representing West Point Community Council. The residents of West Point Community Council propose and encourage the Utah Inland Port to be designed to be a forward-looking, environmentally sustainable development that does not further harm northern Utah's already unhealthy air in adjacent communities and also the habitat of up to 10 million migratory birds. For months, interested parties, Westside community councils, and residents have been assured that we should not worry about the transfer and storage of fossil fuels in the inland port. West Point Community Council residents are concerned with the adding of 3 fossil fuel interest entities on the newly created Inland Port Technical Committee. With the addition of these 3 entities on the technical committee, it seems there may be a plan to create a fossil fuel transloading facility as part of the port. Please keep this in mind and keep an eye on this, will you? We are concerned that the air pollution from the transloading facility, combined with the additional pollution from thousands more diesel-powered oil tanker trucks, will significantly harm the health and of the west side, if not all of Salt Lake City and surrounding communities and cities. Speaking for the residents and citizens of West Point Community Council and some neighboring communities, we encourage the members of City Council to vote yes on the ordinance amending various sections of Title 21A of the Salt Lake City Code pertaining to regulation of inland port uses to bring the city code in line with the state code requirements for an inland port, including conditional uses under the proposed zoning overlay to be required to complete an environmental impact mitigation plan. Additionally, we support the plan provisions suggested development standards for activities involving transporting and loading, unloading, transferring, and temporarily storing natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Wayne Martinson, followed by Vicki Samuelson.
Hi, my name is Wayne Martinson. I'm representing Great Salt Lake Audubon. For over 25 years, I worked for National Audubon Society, so I was involved in early processes when the Northwest Quadrant Plan was going forward. Saw that to completion before the City Council, and now with Great Salt Lake Audubon, you're facing this inland port. The Planning Commission worked well with what it had to do in trying to put together some zoning ordinance amendments, and we very much appreciate what you have before you. I hope you will support those and take a good, strong stand in the city being involved in relationship to any kinds of developments in the inland port, as Tara, I think, was alluding to. One of the things that was not, and I do want to mention that the Northwest Quadrant Plan has these natural buffer areas. That's a key component of the Northwest Quadrant Plan. It's not in the inland port and the zoning amendments, but that's important as you move forward. One of the things that has not been addressed is a buffer for the state prison. There is a buffer of 1 mile for residents, for residential housing in the zoning, but there isn't anything for the prison. And there are different kinds of technicalities for the reason that that's not there, so we're not requesting that you try to make those amendments now. But I think it's important for you to be aware of, and the future city councils and planning commissions to be aware of, that there needs to be a buffer for the prison, that this inland port, if it comes forward, and there's no guarantee it will, if it comes forward, it's an environmental justice issue for prisoners to not have to face lighting and to not face noise constantly. They live out there 24 hours a day, and then they're the workers out there as well. So I think it's important to be aware that the conditional use permitting process is something that needs to be followed very stringently as we go forward. And if a prison is proposed within a 1 mile buffer, or if the inland port freight terminal is proposed within a 1 mile buffer of the prison, then we would very much request and work towards moving that at least 1 mile away from the prison. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martinson. Vicki Samuelson, followed by Robert Goodman.
Good evening. I'm Vicki Samuelson with the League of Women Voters. I'm the co-president of the Utah arm of the Women Voters. What we'd like you to do is to take the recommendations from the Planning Commission. We think they're very good and we support them, and that's what we would request that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Samuelson. Robert Goodman, followed by Scott Andrews, and Scott's is the last card. If somebody else would like to speak, please fill a blue card out and hand it to one of our staff.
Thank you to the council. I would just like to echo the sentiments regarding air quality and the environmental impact. Kind of regardless of the industry that will be there, I foresee a lot of people having to commute out northwest to their places of employment. And I would just like to once again advocate for better public transportation and multi-use roads for multiple modes of transportation. Furthermore, if possible, I would like to emphasize kind of the identity of our city, and how things like outdoor retailers and related kind of revenue and economic growth are really a benefit to what who we are, and in industry and all that stuff. I would really just like to emphasize just who we are as a city and what where our values lie. I think we do a tremendous job supporting and advocating for renewable energy and mitigating climate change and emissions, and I like that to see that continued into the Northwest Quadrant and the Inland Port. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. And Scott Andrews.
Well, this is the reason I came tonight. For me, I thought that the idea of an inland port was a great economic boost to our economy. Regionally, it makes very good sense for all the states. Utah, it'll expand our economy, and we could become a central transportation hub. However, when I came back to the United States, I was down in Los Angeles looking for a house, and I drove past Long Beach. And the first thing I noticed when I got down to Long Beach was, I think the United States' largest container port, was that the temperature rose by about 10 degrees. And in comparison to the rest of Los Angeles and Orange County, the microclimate of the container port was significantly, because you have containers along with water and the sun, and it just sits there and bakes. And so when I thought about the proposal for the container port in Salt Lake City, I thought, well, great idea, but we kind of have a closed environmental area between two mountains, and it could potentially raise the temperature of the surrounding valley by a significant amount, and the impact could be quite significant. And its proximity to other sites, including the dump and the sewage treatment center, could have potential side effects, externalities, as we say in economics, of unintended consequences that were not thought of in the original idea. And so I think that the container idea of an inland port is valid. However, I think that also in the proposal that maybe there are other sites that might be more suitable for the location. And of course, I would leave that up to the people that are proposing the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Look to the council for a motion. Anybody?
I move the council closes public hearing, defer action to a future meeting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kitchen, second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion to this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The third public hearing that we have on our agenda tonight is also our final agendaed public hearing, and that is regarding an ordinance for budget amendment number 2 for fiscal year 2018-2019. And I do not have any cards for this one. If there is anybody that would like to speak to this item, seeing none, I will look to Councilmember Fowler for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that the council close the public hearing, suspend the rules, approve $262,485 of police impact fees to facilitate development of an East Side Police Precinct, and defer action on the remainder of the budget amendment to a future meeting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Fowler, second by Councilmember Mendenhall. Any discussion to this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We'll now move to item C on our agenda, which is our potential action items section. The first is an ordinance regarding the Wasatch Community Gardens master plan and rezone.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance rezoning the properties at 629 and 633 East, 800 South from RMF 30 to RMU 35 and amend the Central Community Master Plan subject to the petitioner and administration entering into a development agreement as outlined in the staff report.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kitchen, second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion of this item? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Our next is an ordinance about 1230 West, 200 South rezone. Looked for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance rezoning the parcels located at approximately 1230 West, 2nd South from M1 to TSA UNT.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kitchen, second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion to this item? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The third is a resolution regarding the Central Business Improvement Area in 2019 designation. I'll look for a motion. Just so that everyone is aware, there was a last-minute protest that was just received by the Recorder's Office, and that is what's being handed out to you all right now.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just to clarify.
Yes, Cindy Guest Jensen, our Council Staff Executive Director.
The protest was received after the deadline, so it can't be officially considered. And also, having that protest does not constitute a large enough percentage to change the outcome. Is that
Okay,
correct?
thank you for that clarification. So the protest in front of you is informational since it did not arrive before or by the deadline. So I'm still looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt the following resolutions. 1, a resolution designating Utah Central Business Improvement Assessment Area number DACBIA 19. And 2, a resolution appointing a Board of Equalization for Utah Central Business Improvement Assessment Area number DACBIA 19 and setting dates for the board to hear and consider objections and corrections to any proposed assessments.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And a motion from Councilmember Kitchen, second by Councilmember Mendenhall. Any discussion to this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is our comments and questions to the mayor from the City Council. Mayor Biskupski, thank you for being here tonight, as well as your Chief of Staff, Patrick Leary. Any questions or comments for the mayor? All right, thank you. So we'll now move to comments to the City Council. Again, if you are interested in speaking with us, the same rules apply. You still have 2 minutes to make your point. And I do have some cards, and then I have another. I saw Amir raised his hand, and then there was another card in the back. Thank you. Okay, the first card is from George Chapman. Second card is Amir Cornell.
Right next to the mansion, too.
I'm really upset that Derek is leaving. Really, really upset. The loss of the institutional knowledge he has is not going to be easily replaced. I'm also really upset about the discussion on a salary increase. After a big sales tax increase, after doubling of water and sewer fees, after another sales tax increase, after agreeing to an inland port under the gun without public comment, after not providing cops with a decent salary increase, these are the people that actually are willing to die for us. You want to do a salary tax increase. This is ridiculous. This does not make sense. You have plenty of opponents from near I know you have plenty of opponents. And I agree that you should not be becoming a professional politician. I know you're saying that this is a great stepping stone, but you should not become a professional politician with a great salary. It's admittedly a sacrifice, but that sacrifice winnows out the people that want to do it for themselves. We want people to be public servants. And I have another really important reason why you shouldn't even think about a salary tax increase, and you're going to hear it more, Derek. You're going to a legislature that is not paid that much. In fact, if you add another 1,000 or 2 a year, you're going to be paid more than the legislators. And I don't think that'll turn out well, especially since you have a watershed discussion that could significantly go against you in the next year. I'm asking you not to consider a salary increase. There are too many reasons not to, and nobody in the city knows about it. And that's the best reason not to do it. Before you increase salaries, you should have a wide-ranging discussion.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Chapman.
publicly notify everybody about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman.
Thank you for
Next card is for Amir Cornell, followed by Yolanda Francisco Nez.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. First of all, thank you for passing ADU. I want to sincerely say thank you. I was so excited when I took the shower that morning, put my Sunday suit on, and went to building services to get the permit. But the guy said, not so fast, George. You got to pay $750. And I said, what? He said, $750. And I said, where the hell you got that fee from? He said, well, the last minute, city council said, you have to pay. I walk out. Last Thanksgiving, I was serving food with our old mayor, good old Rocky. I said, Rocky, can I talk to you? He said, call me on Monday morning. I called him on Monday morning. He said, where the hell their brain was when they said 750? Do they know Salt Lake City owns the west side of town? Like Glendale? Glendale people, they cannot afford 750. An old lady wants to use extra room to rent to make $1 or $2. I would like you go and review that. Number 2, in last 32 days, just one person, they had 92 people, they came to get the permit. The minute they see you have to pay 750, they turn around and they said, hell with ya. Just one person applied. One. 4 years ago, ADU passed, but they put some language on it, and the language said half a mile from a streetcar. And then they couldn't define what is a streetcar is. Now I'm done.
Time.
I would like Charlie to bring up that plastic issue for the grocery, please.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Thank you, Mr. Cornell.
And by the way, Kenab is doing it starting January 1st.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
And I do not see Yolanda here. So the next card would be Effie Keel, followed by Jacob Jensen. Is Effie here? Okay, is Jacob Jensen here? Mr. Jensen, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hopefully I won't be using it. First, wanted to join voices with other people to congratulate you, Senatorial-elect Kitchen. Hopefully you'll be bringing the good fight there. It'll be an uphill battle, and you will have our support as much as we can. The reason I came up here was for Fire and Brimstone, because the video of the shooting of Cody Belgrade had not been released in the 10-day period, but I'm actually being told that, to the credit of the mayor and her staff, that video will be released tomorrow. So I I guess I'm going to have not as much fire and brimstone, but I would like to point out that the funding that was given to the police office for the new officers actually has increased the amount of deaths in Utah because of the shootings by police officers killing people. Cody Belgrade's family didn't have a chance to access the body even of their dead son that was shot in the back, I think 7 times. I'm not even sure if they still have access to the body. The funding that was given to the police officers was here to make our community more safe, but I'm wondering if the city council will consider using some of those funds to make the police accountable for their actions. We've been hearing a lot about training and how training is going to make us safer and it's going to make their officers more polite. But the only thing it seems to be bringing up thus far is the body count. So we've all had a chance, I've met with most of you personally or with other people with UAPB, and we are asking you to consider with these more recent events the installation of the SLC pack as a city ordinance, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Any other interested speakers or comments to the City Council? Come forward and then please fill out a yellow card and hand it to our staff. Just begin with your name again.
Again, I'm just following up on my earlier remarks, and I had an attachment that I wanted to distribute to the appropriate.
Okay, why don't you make your comments and then you can have, staff will hand those out to us. Oh, you made them already? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so seeing no further comments, we'll move to item E on our agenda, which is our new business. There's only one item here, a resolution regarding the Olympic Expression of Interest Agreement. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt a resolution supporting execution of an Olympic Expression of Interest Agreement.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion to this item? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We're now on item F on our agenda, unfinished business. Our first item here is an ordinance regarding Extenet replacement master license agreement for small cell installation in the right-of-way. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance granting a master license agreement to Extenet.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The second item is an ordinance regarding the Extenet franchise agreement for small cell installation in the right-of-way.
Move the council adopt an ordinance granting a telecommunication franchise agreement to Extenet.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The third is an ordinance requirements for face-to-face soliciting and selling.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance amending Salt Lake City Code pertaining to solicitation, peddling, and sales promoting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Mendenhall, second by Councilmember Wharton. Any discussion to this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The fourth item is an ordinance regarding surplus land disposition policy prioritizing affordable housing.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 2.58 of the Salt Lake City Code relating to city-owned real property to prioritize affordable housing and the disposition of city-owned property.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Councilmember Kitchen, seconded by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We are now on to item G, which is our consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rogers to move the consent agenda, second by Councilmember Kitchen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. And Derek, for your final meeting, come hit the gavel.
I'd love
You can
to.
adjourn the meeting formally.
Thank you.
like it.